Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Businessology Show. I'm your host, Jason Blummer, and of course, we have great guests that teach us how to run agencies, creative organizations better. And every one of you that are listening or watching this on YouTube, you have an issue with project management, it is part of your life, and it has to be. And so, thankfully, we've got an expert. So Galen Lowe with the Digital Project Manager is here, and Galen has over 13 years working at boutique agencies, large consultancies to help shape and deliver this human-centered digital transformation initiatives through a lot of different industries. So I'm so excited to bring Galen on the show. So Galen, thanks for joining us on the Businessology Show, man. I'm glad to have you.
Jason, it's an honor to be here. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, very cool. So I just want to dive in and go, we need to start defining we've been doing this a long time. I've heard project management, and now we're hearing digital project management. So what the heck is digital project management?
Well, listen, the fact of the matter is that in this day and age, a lot of projects that agencies are taking on are digital in some way, shape, or form.
For sure. Yeah.
And what I mean by that is it used to be, right? Like brochure website build. Right. Still digital. That was kind of the crux of it, right? And that was what all the agencies were doing. It got into app builds. It got into broader marketing campaigns. And now a lot of projects are being run using digital technology, and it's moving fast. So that's kind of how I define it. Things are moving fast. You need to stay on top of it. It's not good enough anymore for your project managers to not know how the sausage is made and not stay up to speed with how things are changing and not bringing to the table what's the newest, best way to do something, to get something done, to deliver a project, to deliver value to your clients.
Okay, that makes sense. And what you alluded to was, and I never thought about it this way, but anything digital, of course, is going to be faster, or it can be faster, obviously. I mean, people long ago who used to work in the print industry or whatever, right? That's a lot of manual analog type stuff, but digital, everything can just blow by you, and it's all in, user interface tools. There's just so much knowledge for us to manage. And so what you guys do in your community, the Digital Project Manager, is really, do you teach project managers how to manage the wealth and breadth of knowledge and how to push it through companies to actually get service and scope done? Is that kind of what you do?
That's 100% the idea. There's so much to wrap your arms around these days as a project manager. Just digital technology, ways of delivering projects, what the role of a project manager is where you work. A lot of questions, a lot of conversations about the value of a project manager and how to advocate for yourself as a project manager to do more, to be more strategic. But really, it's about sharing tips as we go through it, because we are all going through, in different agencies, in different organizational contexts, different things are working, and it's too hard to try and know everything. So we share our problems, we share our challenges, we share what's working and what's not, our lessons learned. From my side, we share as many practical, actionable tips as we can based on our experience, real world project managers. And again, not just to project managers, and we'll get there, I think, in this conversation, but also to folks who are just they want to build project management as a skill set. And frankly, agency owners who are trying to figure out project management, crack that nut, understand what is too much, what is too little, and what they can expect from a project manager.
Yeah, very cool. Well, it's a needed, but it's a very difficult role to actually define. In the work we've done with agencies, project management and account management sometimes are they've been interchangeable. In small agencies, the same person does both of those. Is there a definition between what an account manager is and what a project manager is, or does every agency define those differently?
I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and here's where I landed. This is not the traditional definition of project management, but the way I see project management is it is about leading collaborations with other humans.
Nice.
And a collaboration that starts and finishes. And then I got into this metaphor, and I'm not very sporty, okay? So forgive me for this, but I was like, you mentioned something. You said sometimes it's the same person, right, in an agency, and I see that a lot. And I myself has been a hybrid account manager, project manager for a lot of my career. And I started thinking of it as, okay, well, what is a project manager doing if we're sort of leading this collaboration to achieve a goal? And I'm like, well, it's kind of like a soccer match, right? If you're into footy, okay, well, we've got a game and you've got a coach, right? The coach is not on the field necessarily, but they play an instrumental role in making sure the team knows how to achieve the goal. The goal is simple. The goal is win, right?
Yeah.
But how to win, that sort of falls into that purview. And then I started thinking about it a little more, and I said, well, you know what? The luxury of having a coach on a football team or soccer team is that there's usually just one game at a time. There's one team. And I think that's where the stretch happens, right? So you can have an account manager running one project at a time with that team, with their team. If they're dedicated and they're doing one thing at a time with your client, that might be just fine. And I'll get there eventually in terms of scaling into complexity. Yeah. But what happens when you have two games running? Because you're playing two games and for the same, team owner.
Yeah.
The goal is still to win, but you can't take your eye off the ball. Who is on the ground there making game time decisions on how to win? And I think that is where you start getting into a perspective of, hey, wait a minute. I can win multiple games at the same time if I have project managers running alongside an account manager who might be more strategic, who then can look at the future and say, okay, let's plan for the next game. And I think it's a scale point of an agency. You can still get it done. I see a lot of account managers delivering projects. And to those folks, I would say, listen, like if you lead an agency where you only have account managers and they're delivering projects, project management is also a skill set. And I would say, like find training. We offer some training through our site as well, just to help folks who are getting into project management learn project management as a skill and bake that in.
Nice.
Here's where I think it starts to hit a bit of a wall. We come back to the digital thing, right?
Yeah.
So digital project management. We talked about things moving fast. We talked about digital technology. The thing that happens there is complexity. So I know I led off saying, digital project management used to be those brochure websites, content on a web page. Not anymore. Now it's, web applications, right? Like a lot of the work I had done are like government services, right? Like e-commerce even, right? Like they're not these simple things anymore. And I think that's where you run into that capacity conundrum where it's like an account manager can probably run a couple low complexity projects at the same time. What happens when you have 5 high complexity projects? That's when you want somebody to manage that collaboration and lead it, because the thing about digital is that, like you said earlier, it can get away from you really fast. Things change quickly. And I think the one thing about digital as well is that, someone might say, okay, well, the severity of going down the wrong path might be higher on like a construction project, right? You put the electrical in the wrong spot, you pour concrete in the wrong spot. That's hard to undo. But because we have such liquid expectations about digital, even your clients are going to be like, well, it should be easy. You should just be able to change that graphic. We should just be able to change this functionality. And because our expectation of it is liquid, we move very fast and we pivot very fast. And the expectation of speed in the face of complexity that's the challenge of the digital project manager, is sort of aligning all the expectations of what is possible and what is worthwhile to do without putting the project at risk, and actually educating people so that we're all sort of making the right decisions together at speed. Yes, it's digital. Yes, things can change quickly. Yes, probably changing that piece of content on that page is easy, but also be thinking about the risk around that. Is that going to slow us down? Is that going to create another problem that we'll need to solve?
Okay. No, I love when you give us analogies like a soccer team, which can be a pretty complex setup, right? Or even building a house, right? And having to put things in order. People presume something different about digital. It's like, that's easy. You can move that around. But I think what you're saying, if I'm saying it back to you right, is that no, there's always still strategy and risk around changing that logo, right? And so it might be easy to upload a new image, right? But what strategy and risk have we done in doing something like that? And so I'm hearing you say there is strategy to service of a client. There's also just the practical movement of things. And I think you're saying account managers sit in a strategic role sometimes, helping define a lot of that nuanced scope as they go through that work with the team and the client. Account management bridges that gap. But digital project managers are meant to move it all efficiently through our software, right? We use, everybody uses their own software, ClickUp or whatever it may be, to move projects through an agency. And sometimes the account manager can't step down into the flow of that digital movement. They got to stay high level and strategic. And so project managers have to go down and get that ball down the field. Like, am I describing account management and digital project management correctly from what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that there's strategic elements of both. I would say the account manager, we had a great session in our community a while back about the roles of an account manager and how they can work with project managers effectively. And where it boiled down to is the account manager on the call was saying, listen, my job is to think about what to do, what value to deliver for the client, and think into the future. And the project manager on the call said, listen, my job is to think about how to deliver that, the strategy of how to deliver that. And I live today and just a little bit into the future. And that way, account management can think long term. They can be like, what is phase 2? What is phase 3? What is the next program that we're going to do to deliver that strategy? And the strategic component of a project manager is, how are we going to deliver this thing that the accounts team has planned out? And so it becomes it becomes that game time, get the playbook out, get that little board and draw the circles and the X's with the arrows, figure out, okay, wait a minute, the other team, the opposition, risk in this case, it's pushing back this way. Here's what we need to do to pivot. But I think you nailed it when you said, who's down there on the ground making decisions, where an account manager may need to be higher level, may deliver more value at higher level.
But they both have strategy. They both have their own strategy in their roles. And like an agency can't operate without a project manager, right? Or I know sometimes a creative technical person may start their own design company and it's just them, and then they grow and they hire people. At some point, that technical creative owner is doing everything. So at some point they're doing their own project management. So are different sized agencies and the different complexities, do they require different numbers of project managers, or can you operate without one? Like, tell me, what is the need of that role or the not need of that role?
Absolutely. And I think it's something worth road mapping out for most folks. So here's the thing. And I love what you said, because I say this a lot to everybody who is an owner that is struggling to understand the value of project management. And I go there because, generally speaking, they are owner-operator entrepreneurs who started by doing all the jobs. Right. And then at some point, they had to delegate. And at that stage, it became a piece of what they had to do, but it was kind of this necessary evil. It's like, I don't have time to talk to the client anymore and have a plan and create, and work with the team. But what owners often forget, and operators as well, they often forget that actually a project manager is a little piece of them. Like, you're looking for a project manager that kind of is you, that has that go-getter attitude, that understands business, that is a bit entrepreneurial, because getting the work done isn't, frankly, what you were doing at the beginning. At the beginning, you were getting the work done to build trust, to build relationships, to build recurring business, to establish growth. And I think when you look at it that way, all day long, project manager is going to be super valuable. Is every project manager wired that way? No, but that's a whole different complaint that we could do another episode on that. It's just not the way that the role is perceived, or frankly, not the way it's trained. But if you're looking for someone who's going to make an impact on your business, look for a project manager who is a leader or has an appetite to lead, and good people skills, and a willingness to learn and understand the business, and that they are instrumental in growth. And then you stop getting those people applying for the jobs who are like, I can make a plan and make sure that plan happens exactly as it should, because honestly, they're lying. No plan actually goes that way. Every agency owner knows that, because they were doing the delivery before, and they're like, like chaos everywhere, around every corner, creative problem solving all the time. People who, confusion amongst the team, confusion with expectations from the client. Yeah, you want someone who can manage that, lead that, cast a vision, and be that person who is leading the strategy of how to deliver this thing. That should be the role of a project manager in an agency, frankly. That's cool.
And I think you're saying it's misunderstood right now, and maybe it always will be. I don't know. It's a hard role to peg somebody into. And you're also saying it's being trained poorly, and a lot of project managers' training is being done by the agency that is using them as a project manager. And so to them, it's a necessary evil, but your organization actually trains them more theoretically. I don't know if that's the right way to say it. You actually train them to what they should be doing as a project manager, not what the agency they're working for wants them to do necessarily.
Here's how I will frame it, and actually I will challenge your listeners and viewers to head over to our site, go to the training section. It looks like it's going to be training all hard skill, and it does, right? How to create a statement of work, how to create a solid estimate, how to create a project plan that's going to hold water. But then we go a little bit deeper. We go into the leadership skills, the judgment, and the instinct that is required to be a strong project manager, especially in a digital space. Because as we talked about, things change fast, and it isn't about making a plan and making sure that things go that way. Nothing ever goes that way. It's about reacting to chaos. It's about addressing risk in advance. And it's actually a mindset for an agency, specifically for an agency, but I would say in any organization. But it's a mindset of how to deliver things effectively, maintaining all the relationships, maintaining all the trust, and making the right game time decisions. Not in advance, but like during the game. You're going to need to react to things. You're going to need to react to adversity. Not everyone's going to be happy all the time. I know that a lot of folks are like, oh man, managing clients is hard. Like there's always this point where they're kind of pissed off. Guess what? That's actually kind of normal and it's part of the job, right? You go through these arcs of managing expectations and like, disappointment and surprise. And it's really about being a navigator more than it is about being an administrator.
Dude, that is so cool. Being a good project manager is being more about a navigator than what did you say? Executor? No, administrator.
Administrator is the word that comes up a lot because, like, I mean, I hear it all the time. Cool. They're like, "Oh, you take notes, and that's great. Thanks for taking notes." Yeah, and it's like, okay, that's like it's this much of my job, but sure,
that's right. Yeah,
it's a perception thing.
Yeah, well, that's so cool. And so the project manager, that could be a key for agency owners. Actually, if they start investing in their project managers and hiring the right ones, they can start hiring, which I never thought about it, leaders who have instinct and the ability to make judgment in the moment as things move and change and pivot, which you keep saying that's the way that's the way service with clients goes. It is not a linear service. It is up and down, bumping into emotions and happiness and anger, and you need a person who can steadily move through that. And so is it best, or what is your opinion on hiring a technical creative person or promoting them in an agency up into a project manager, or do you hire outside and go, we're going to bring inside a project manager who's already a higher level skilled PM instead of promoting from within? Or is there an opinion you have on that?
I mean, I would say this. If you've got someone internal in your agency already, knows the business, knows the people, knows your clients, I would look for certain qualities. I'd be like, are they individuals who really embrace learning? Are they folks who really want to learn new things all the time? Are they folks who get along with people? In other words, do they like practice and promote empathy? Are they inclusive? Are they folks who help people grow? And then also just, do they understand the business? And I think that, the same things all apply when you're hiring externally, but if you've got someone who has these three qualities: understanding of the business, understanding of empathy and how to work with people, and appetite to always be learning, and of course a desire to be a project manager, I guess would be the other thing, then absolutely. And I've seen loads of people in my community who came up, they were engineers, they were on the dev team, they were UX folks, and they got into sort of maybe more of a lead role, and they were like, I want to be more involved with the bigger picture and how things get made, working with other teams, working with like a very cross-functional team to kind of just understand the product better. Those are great people to, just walk down that path with. I'm not saying make them project managers tomorrow, but I'm saying that there is a path and there's some training that you can get them. And there's a lot of, and I don't just mean our community, everywhere on the internet, there's lots of opportunities to learn. And it is a great path. I think it is a great path for people who want to then kind of get outside of their craft. But then also, I would say there's verticality to it, because I also think that good project managers will make good operational leaders, will make good project or like product heads, would make great departmental leaders. Did a podcast once, kind of tongue in cheek, where like, can being a project manager get you into the C-suite? Not that alone, but these individuals will have good line of sight about how the business is run at the ground level, and how the strategy of delivery actually leads to growth, leads to recognition, leads to those awards, and then can, with a bit more training on the business side, probably, start operating a business.
Wow. I never thought about that. But you're basically saying the kinds of people who are going to be great project managers are the kinds of people who can minister and do things like run the strategic parts of a business, the operations. They're the similar kind of people. And how do you hire people? I know this is probably a big question. How do you hire people that have empathy and judgment and the ability to navigate complex, because some client work is so complex. How do you hire those people? I know that's probably a bigger podcast, but do you have tips on that?
I do. I mean, I would say invest the time in your job description.
Okay.
The people who aren't reading your job description probably aren't the people you want anyways. And I see that happen all the time, right? Like they're not ticking any of the boxes, but they're still applying for the job. Yeah, maybe that's not a good sign anyways. But I would say invest the time in a job description.
Nice.
Not a generic one, because that's what you think a project manager does, but what you want the role to be, and cast that vision for people who are applying.
Yeah.
And then I'd say it comes down to interview strategy. And I see so many hiring managers waste a lot of time in interviews because they're asking about things, right? Like, tell me what kind of projects you've worked on. Okay, well, how do you approach this? Have you done agile? What software have you used? All things that honestly you can answer in an email, or it's probably in their resume to begin with. And then the other thing they do is they don't paint that picture. They're asking questions of that applicant, but they're not sharing the vision for what they want that role to be. And therefore, there's a lot of mishires that happen because expectations are misaligned. Because they're like, well, you asked me a bunch of questions about project management. I came in and I managed scoped and the timeline and the budget. And isn't that enough? So I think you need to also use the opportunity in an interview. I actually only spend about 5-10 minutes asking like hard skill questions. I do spend a chunk of time talking about what my expectations are. And then I spend the rest of the time on more situation-based questions, because what I want to find out is how they handle failure, how they handled change and adversity, how they handled conflict. And then there's some fun open-ended questions. I know someone in our community, she asked the question, she's like, I've got 172 crates of jelly beans in a plane and I need to get them out right away. What's your next step? And you start to understand how the brain works, right? Or what questions they ask.
I love that.
So again, it's this mix of trying to figure out where those soft skills lie and how they're going to approach a problem.
Yeah. I love that question, man. Like, because different people can go a million different ways. I'm like, fly the plane and leave it all behind, man. That's a pain in the butt, right? And you're like, well, I'm not going to be hired as a project manager, right? But it's such a cool thing. It helps people start to think about, what they're going to be doing. Is the title producer similar, or is that in video production? You're going to find that, or where do you find producer, and is it similar to project manager sometimes?
I actually love the title producer. I come from a bit of a film background, and in that world, producer is actually an empowered role. I would say in the agency world, especially in digital, I see them being used interchangeably. But here's why I like the title of producer. So producer to me says you are somebody with vision and influence, and maybe also a bit of stake. Again, this is me projecting my film background, but
nice.
Purse strings, right? You're holding the purse strings. You've got the budget. You have stake in this. But to me, it says, this is someone who's like willing to be resourceful and a bit creative about getting the job done, getting towards a goal. So like not someone who's a box ticker, who's like, give me the plan and give me the scope and I'll do what it says in the instruction manual. But someone who's going to be like, what needs to be done? And let me make sure that happens. I think that it's problematic sometimes. So we actually tried to hire a digital producer at the digital project manager. And we ended up changing it back to digital project manager at the digital project manager. Because the word producer, it's like the kinds of people you might want to hire might not be searching for producer. And then the folks who are looking for a job that's a bit of a different, like I've had like graphic production like apply for the job. Folks who are like event planners. I actually have had some film producers apply for the role. They'll be like, I can make your videos great. And I was like, I don't think it was part of the job description, but it wasn't the spirit of it. And I find that it was hard. But as soon as we changed it to project manager, people found it. But we use the description, the job description, to paint that picture so that people are searching. This is like SEO for job postings, right?
That's right.
It's like people are searching project management and then weed them out in the description, being like, I'm looking for someone who's going to help our business grow and be strategic, but the expectations are this, this, and this. Somebody who's entrepreneurial, somebody who wants to lead, and somebody who's willing to be humble enough to, be that servant leader that's going to like let the team do their best work, and not someone who's just going to be looking at a piece of paper, barking orders, and asking people, is it done yet? If you can frame that into your job description, then I think that will really help in terms of getting the right talent and inspiring the right people to apply for the right reasons.
Nice. Okay. Well, you're really injecting a lot into this role for me, that it is really a visionary type person you're looking for. A visionary who is also still a really good administrator. They can get stuff done. And I love, does a project manager, like the word authority, what kind of authority should they have? Should an agency owner imbue them with so they can get that stuff done? Is there authority to go, no, designer, do it by this time, not by the time you said? Like, what does authority mean for a project manager?
I think a good project manager is used to the idea that they don't necessarily have a team of folks that are direct reports. They are not the team's boss. And that's why managing through influence is a big part of the job. That's changing. I've seen a lot of agencies switching it up so that there are dedicated pods that always work together. Yeah. And sometimes their career manager is actually the project manager. So I've seen that kind of working, but I would still say that the kind of person you're looking for is someone who works well with influence over written authority. I see a lot of organizations, less so agencies, but sometimes like a larger enterprise, they might have the classic project charter, literally come down from the mountain and say, I decree that this individual can tell you no, period. All right.
Right.
In an agency world, it's not usually that. It's usually like, here's your project manager. They're responsible for the timeline. They're responsible for the strategy of how we deliver this. And then it happens a lot, right? Where project manager will say, actually, no, we need to shift this deadline. And then the escalation process goes, that specialist goes to their lead, who goes to their manager to say, hey, this project manager is saying that I need to do this. And that comes back to the project manager. That's actually pretty normal. But I think it's one of those necessary evils of that structure, which is that, it's like, wait, it's not really full authority for the project manager. However, sometimes that's good, because sometimes there's going to be a reason, right? But I'm sure there's project managers. I have to say this: not every project manager is a good project manager. I know that that's probably obvious, but
makes sense.
In my position, I have to say that there are a lot of bad project managers out there who would be like, "Oh, great, get it done 5 days early, please." To which that individual will be like, well, I can't. Like, it's just not how design works. I can't design something in a day that was supposed to take 2 weeks. And I've seen that happen a lot. And I know that that's been a lot of people's experience with a project manager. I have to tell you, those are not good project managers. So I think in some ways that structure works to say, okay, I'm a designer. My project manager asked me to do this. That's not how it works. I'm going to talk to my lead or my manager, and they can talk to the project manager, because that isn't a realistic expectation. A good project manager would know that. They would know how the sausage is made. They would know that you can't make a sausage 5 days faster. Right. It would just involve, it won't work.
Yeah, that's right.
That's that ability to learn and understanding what the team is doing and helping them get it done, rather than just expecting that it can be done faster.
Yeah, very cool. Well, Galen, as we're wrapping up here, I do want to ask, how is, like, project management is probably changing, right? People are learning more about it, but how is the role changing in agencies? And why would it be changing?
That's a really good question. So, I mean, I think that, listen, we just came out of a bit of instability in the form of a pandemic, in the form of lockdown. Lots of different ways of working are coming about. And I think for me, that was a signal that actually changes in the way we work as humans, as teams, that will continue to change a lot faster. And I don't think people think about this a lot, but every project, because you bring in teams of people that don't always work together, you have to invent a way of working. You know, yes, maybe you just, this is going to be an agile project, but you still need to figure out how this group is going to work together. And it's going to be an innovation every time. And I would say actually digital project management now is, again, that mindset of moving fast, this culture of, a bunch of different specialists. No one can wrap their arms around all of digital and be an expert at everything. So you need to manage and lead a collaboration. And then I think that can feed up. And I think one thing that organizations are not taking advantage of, and definitely didn't take advantage of as everyone sort of came out of their lockdown mode and maybe back to the office, is that actually project managers have a great perspective on how work could be done differently, because they do it a little bit differently every time. And I would say it's that future of work and the way that teams work. I think they can be more of a voice in innovation of how work gets delivered. And I think a smart agency will be able to see that, capitalize on that, have the right conversations with the project management team, and actually work that in, weave that into the way that your agency evolves. Because as we know, doing something the way you did it yesterday isn't necessarily going to be the right decision.
That's
so
right.
To always be looking ahead and always be plugged into actually how the sausage is being made and is there a better way? I think that is something that should be on the minds of agency owners and frankly should be on the minds of any digital project manager as well.
Very cool. Well, Galen, you know a ton about project management, man. So no wonder you've done it for so long. So how do people get the training? I know the site is thedigitalprojectmanager.com, but what do they do there? Can it be a community training? What are the things there that we would send some of our listeners to?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We've got three main pillars. We've got just free information on our website, lots of knowledge there. Go in for free, listen to our podcast, sign up for a newsletter, all free. Then we've got our community, which is about just keeping your finger on the pulse of what's going on in terms of delivering digital projects, learning from one another, being together. And then in the training arm, we have a 7-week certification course, right? You can get a certificate in digital project management. We actually go through end to end on a small scale digital project. I think it's perfect for example, an account manager who wants to build project management as a skill set. I think it's perfect for agency owners who are starting to build that practice and start to understand what project management can do and how it's done. And how they can do it the right way the first time, so they don't have to learn the hard way. And honestly, it's good for project managers who are just entering digital and want to know more about, what could go wrong and how to deal with it, but also really just honing that instinct and that judgment, and frankly, just getting that thing on paper that proves that they know how to do this thing and what the value is. So we've got the training arm as well. I'm going to be launching some mini courses as well, so you can just kind of learn a skill in under an hour. Check us out, thedigitalprojectmanager.com. Okay,
very cool. Well, Galen Lowe, thank you for teaching us so much about project management and all the things that go with it. So thank you for your wisdom and thanks for being on the show, man. We appreciate you.
Thanks for having me here, Jason. I appreciate it.
Take care. We'll see you.